Another team facing a very interesting offseason is the Minnesota Wild, and they are now up to $12.6 million in dead cap space with the contracts of Suter and Parise. A couple areas I want to go with you. The first one is what you see down in that bottom corner there, a picture of Cam Talbot. He's under contract.
Mhm.
Marc-Andre Fleury's a UFA. How do you see the goalie situation playing out between the Pipes and Mini?
Well, they need another one. We know that. Capo Kakinen was shipped off to the San Jose Sharks at the deadline. So you're looking at Cam Talbot and Cam Talbot. So would you like to bring Marc-Andre Fleury back? Yeah, absolutely. But you can't do it for a big dollar figure, especially with the cap crunch that the Wild are facing, Tyler. So I like this combination of goaltenders. I think Talbot has been very underrated, underappreciated, I even think, in Minnesota during his time there. I think they could work well together. But man, if you're going to bring Fleury in, it can't be for big dollars. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Fleury not come back. But I also look at the cap space of this club, Tyler. Like, take a look at this, man. There's a lot of RFAs there, isn't there?
Well, yeah, like there's a bunch of really interesting things going on here. 7.3 million. Okay, that might not be enough to sign the top guy on this list, Kevin Fiala. Like that right
Right.
there is another huge question in their offseason. A guy who had a tremendous season. He's been a pretty consistent producer. He's gonna want to raise. I know he has arb rights. But that's probably decision number one before they even get to the
Hmm.
goaltending is figuring out what they're doing with Kevin Fiala, because that determines how much money they're going to have to spend on anything else. And they're going to need to move out some contracts if they want to keep Fiala and do all the other necessary work. But do you agree that Fiala is probably the first thing that Bill Guerin needs to check off his checklist?
Well, I think you just need to decide. Are you
Yeah.
keeping Kevin Fiala or not? He went missing for the first half of the season, and he went missing in the playoffs. Is this a big time player? I understand his points are big, but these are question marks. And when you have that big of a cap crunch, you have to really think about it. And if you're Minnesota, you're also facing down the fact that Matt Dumba needs a contract in a year, and that's going to be a big one. Matthew Boldy's going to need one. Like Frederick Gaudreau. There's a lot of pieces that need it. I almost think that Billy Guerin's going to have to choose between either keeping around Fiala or keeping around Dumba, because I don't see how you keep either of those two into the future with this cap hit. It's going to be tough for him to make those decisions. And without a doubt in my mind, Minnesota is going to have to try to trim a little fat around the edges here to be able to make any big swings to retain some of their young players.
Yeah, and the dead cap space, by the way, it only goes up again next summer. It goes up by another 2 million to just over 14 million. So it's not going to get easier for Bill Guerin. The good thing is, they got a couple of interesting contracts there when you look at a guy like a Hartman, Matt Boldy up in the top six.
Oh,
But
yeah.
if I had to put a percent chance on Fiala, and this is just my opinion, I would say there's like a 10% chance he's back with the Wild next year. I just think you mentioned how he kind of disappears for some spurts. I don't know if that's a guy you necessarily want to pay $8 million. And if you can find a way to flip Fiala into another good young player on a good contract, maybe not quite as proven, maybe you have to take a little bit of a risk, kind of like you did when you flipped Granlund for Fiala. You got to take a little bit of a risk, but there's a chance you could find yourself with a good contract that really helps you navigate the next couple of seasons, right?
I agree with you, Tyler. And I think you're also looking at Boldy to take that next step. I mean, this is a guy who's got a massive skill set. He's just scratching the surface. Can he be even better than Kevin Fiala and at a more manageable cap hit for the next several years? I think so. And I'm pretty sure that's probably what Billy Guerin's looking at as well and wondering.
Yeah, they have a couple of other really intriguing prospects throughout their system as well. It'll be fascinating to see how Minnesota navigates their way through what will be a tough offseason with some huge question marks.